Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being with us. I'm Sidney Katz, the Council President for the Montgomery County Council, and I represent the residents of the 3rd District. And we are once again delighted, and I'm underlining that word delighted, that you are joining us on Zoom for our 14th business briefing. The purpose of these briefings is to help local businesses and nonprofits navigate through our new economic reality. And I'm very glad today to be joined by two very special guests. Ash Shetty, who's the Director of the Montgomery County Office of Procurement, and Grace Denno, the Division Chief for the Division of Business Relations at the Montgomery County Office of Procurement. Our guests are going to discuss the continuing economic impacts of COVID-19, as well as how local businesses are reopening and preparing for the winter ahead. They'll take questions from our Zoom audience. You may send your questions, please, to the chat box on the right of your screen. Before we start, I'd like to thank Susan Kennedy, who will be moderating this briefing. And I also wanted to thank Lori Edberg from my office, who's the person who puts all of these briefings together. And it makes it look like it is so very easy to do. And I can tell you they are not. So with that, Susan, if we could please begin.
Thank you, Sidney. I cannot believe it's our 14th business briefing. That's just unbelievable to me. Before we start asking questions, though, I'm going to introduce our guests again and ask them to share a few thoughts. First, I'm going to ask Mr. Shetty to tell us a little bit about what's been happening over in the Office of Procurement since the pandemic, and describe a little bit of what your work has entailed lately.
Oh, hi, Susan. And please call me Ash. The Office of Procurement has, like everybody else, had to adjust to this new normal. We've, in the beginning, in anticipation of this, although it was not enough time to prepare, we did send out COVID-19 checklists to our contract administrators. We wanted to make sure that our vendors, our key vendors, had continuation of operations plans in place, COOP plans as we call them. So we did our best to be ready for this when this all began in early March. But once it kicked off, there was just an avalanche of things that we had to deal with. And really, I think the right expression is a snowball of things, because while we had to maintain several services for county residents and businesses, the trash still had to get picked up. Inmates in jail still needed to receive training. The various health and human services needed to be provided. We had to modify contracts in a very quick hurry to make sure that things that were being done live were being done virtually, that other precautions were being taken for the well-being of not only our employees, but also those of our vendors. And even as we were trying to make sure that the county's operations were still running behind the scenes, we had to jump into the scavenger hunt for PPE, for testing capacity, everything that people were probably paying the most attention to. So in the beginning of this pandemic, it basically meant me understanding what our needs were during the day, and then working with vendors sometimes at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning, because their suppliers were based overseas in Asia. And now that this has been going on for several months, we've able to wrap our arms around the changes that needed to be done. We've been able to build more flexibility into the system in anticipation of where we're headed this winter. We've managed to stockpile at least what we think, based on our prior burn rate, is enough PPE to last us through the winter. And so, we're starting to feel some sort of normal in this new normal.
Great. Well, yes, it's going to be a long winter, I'm afraid, but it sounds like you guys have been busy and are well prepared. Grace, tell us a little bit about your branch of the office. I know that you oversee a lot of the local small businesses and the minority, female, and disabled contracts. How have they been affected, and what are you hearing?
Good afternoon. I'm Grace Denno. I'm the Division Chief of the Division of Business Relations and Compliance. So under my unit, we manage and enforce the local small business reserve program, the minority, female, disabled persons owned program, as well as a couple wage programs. Yes, since the pandemic, we've noticed a lot of local, small, and minority owned businesses started to be struggling, and they are looking for any business opportunities. And we've received a lot of inquiries to our government contracting offices to see if there's any government procurement opportunities for these businesses. So I would like to take this opportunity to tell the audience, if you have a business, especially if you are local in Montgomery County, please make sure to come to our solicitation page. Our website is www.montgomerycountymd.gov/PRO. If you are there, you will see that we actually are trying our best to reserve many of our solicitations under the local small business reserve program. That means that if your business is certified as a local and small business in Montgomery County, then these solicitations are reserved only for this vendor pool. Currently, we have four formal solicitations that are reserved under the local small business reserve program, and three informal solicitations that are reserved. Many of them are your regular event planning type, the staffing contracts, and recreation apparel contracts. So many of them are very good opportunities for local small business to participate. So we welcome you to come look at our opportunities. We do try to give more opportunities for local small businesses. I also want to mention that we are planning for a December 9th reverse trade show. This would be our annual procurement event that we will have many county department contract administrators in this event. We will make it an online meet and greet event, so the vendors can match your industry with the particular departments, and they will tell you what their upcoming opportunities are, so that we'll have a projection on solicitations in procurement.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I know, Grace, that you also, the local business preference program, how does that fit into all of this?
Yes. So during this whole time, we were working hard. The county executive initiated this new bill called Local Business Preference Program, and with Councilmember Katz support and many other council member support, this law was passed in June, and we were able to quickly implement it, started August 1st. So right now, if you look at our solicitation page, we have 4 formal solicitations. That includes IFBs and RFPs are subject to this local business preference program. When we talk about this, basically, if your vendor, if your company is certified as a local business, not a local small, but local business within Montgomery County, then for RFPs, you will receive 10% of your evaluation preference toward your proposal. And for IFBs, you will receive a 10% price preference with a ceiling of $200,000 toward your local business. So this will give the local business a hand up when they're competing in all of our formal solicitations.
Okay.
So far, I'm sorry, so far we have received 16 applications to get certified as local business. And by the way, if you are already certified as a local small business, then you are automatically certified as a local business, but not vice versa. So right now we have more than 1,000 certified local small businesses who are already certified local business. And on top of that, we are certifying more local businesses.
That's great. Ash, let me ask you, I know that, a lot of people, when they hear the word procurement, they kind of are a little frightened. It can be a frightening thing to try to navigate. And I know since County Executive Elrich has taken office, part of your job has been sort of streamlining some of the processes that are involved with procurement. Talk a little bit about how your office has evolved in the past year. I know you've made some things a little easier for folks to navigate.
Yeah, that was probably one of Mark's, the county executive's biggest frustrations was this feeling that the office was difficult to work with, that there was this opacity in how decisions get made, that there's just a lack of a business-friendly orientation. And so, almost everything, every major initiative that I've taken in terms of changes brought about have been to fix that issue. We started by putting in place new values that the team can rally around. Things like efficiency, collaboration, but also things that you wouldn't expect in things like empathy. So that when my team comes across, whether it is internal stakeholders in the using departments or our external partners, the vendors, they treat them a certain way. They have a certain mindset that guides every action they take. So we've put in place measures to reduce the level of effort that vendors would have to go through to understand our solicitations. Early on in the 4 business forums that the council president and the county executive had conducted, we realized that the length of our solicitations was very long. And so we did a lot to reduce the amount of effort that would go into making the determination of whether or not a business would want to participate in a solicitation. We realized that when a solicitation is underway, vendors don't often know where in the process we are. And again, that spoke to that opacity that I needed to address. And so we put in place now a nationally award-winning solicitation tracker that allows you to see where any solicitation is in the process. And my hope for that tool is to keep it continuously improving, so that in the future you will even be able to use it not only to track current solicitations, but past solicitations and look up the contracts associated with those if you were interested in participating in that in the future. And again, if you just Google the word solicitation tracker, it's the first thing that shows up because it's a one of its kind resource. But beyond that, we've taken smaller initiatives, if you'd call it that, to provide more support to businesses that found our processes overwhelming. For instance, we instituted a monthly open house, which was being done live till COVID, and now is being done virtually. But every month, you have the ability to connect. It's the 3rd Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m. You have the ability to connect with my staff to understand our processes, to help you better navigate the system that we have in place. Again, the idea was that if we can't immediately demystify everything, at least we can give you all the handholding and support you could use. And then Grace just mentioned the reverse trade show, which was probably the first event casualty of COVID. It was supposed to have been held in April in a live format. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it had to be delayed. And then we decided, with encouragement from a lot of the business chambers, that we ought to do it virtually. And so that's happening next month. And it's going to be a great opportunity for the local business community to again look behind the curtains, meet with the different using departments that do the purchasing, get to share with them what they're capable of doing. And then, just not to bombard you with all the different initiatives we've taken. So I'll just end at this last one. We've also launched a new tab on our website that we call projections. But basically what that does is it actually allows you to see not only what solicitations are on the street already, but what solicitations we project will be on the street in the next 9 months or a year. And what that allows you to do as a vendor is to get your ducks in a row. So if this process is seemingly cumbersome, at least you have more time to prepare for it. And again, that's not to say that we aren't working to reduce the paperwork, et cetera, but the point is it's sort of a dual-pronged approach, right? It's not just about streamlining processes, it's also about training people and getting them to a place where they can use what resources are available. So lots of good things happening. And, like I said, I've left out things like the fact that our pocketbook is now available in multiple languages and things like that. So there's just a lot going on.
Fantastic.
Thank you. I just wanted to jump in for a minute, and Ash and Grace too brought up about the 4 business forums that Mark Elrich and I had. I guess it's last year, and I don't know if it's further back than that. Time has a way anymore of coming together. It was actually when we could be in person, so it was before all of the Zoom calls. But one of the things that I always talk about is that one of their 4 business forums, we had a person there that said that they wanted to do business with the county, and the county wanted them to fill out, I believe they said, a 150-page document. And first of all, I thought the 4 business forums wouldn't even bring up procurement. I thought it was going to be someone that complained about, their permitting or whatever. Or I guess we could have gotten a compliment too, but we figured it was going to be more complaint than compliments. But the first person, or this person, said it was a 150-page document, and how they didn't fill out the form. And then the next person came and said, well, I'd have liked to fill out the 150-page document. You all being the county, actually wanted me to fill out something like a 300-page document. Now, I don't know whether those numbers were really correct. I mean, I never went back and counted them. But 2 forums later, a fellow by the name of Shetty walked over to me and Mark. We were sitting next to each other. And he said, I want you to see, this is the old form, and I always hold up my fingers. It was this thick. I don't have any pages, but it was this thick. And he said, and here's the new one. I think it was down to about 9 pages in 2 weeks. So right then, we knew that we're heading in the right direction. We had people at those forums come in and say, look, we are having problems with some zoning texts and whatnot. We were able to work together to do that. The bottom line on this whole thing is, and Ash and Grace certainly are a great part of this, but if we know of the problem, many times we can help. Can't help every time, but many times we can help. So I sincerely thank both Ash and Grace for all their hard work, and we thank the people who are telling us of the problems that they're having as well.
Definitely. I'm wholeheartedly agree, Sidney. I have a question from the audience regarding the reverse trade show. This is from Lorena Jaron. She's asking, are you looking to post the type of industries you are looking for to come to this trade show? Grace?
Yes, we're still in the planning session. We're getting confirmations from all the department people. Very soon, we're going to send out a event flyer, and we will have 4 different sessions, each focusing on one industry. And under that, we will list all the upcoming opportunities under that industry. So in general, the industries are construction, IT, parts and equipment, and consulting services, management consulting services, those 4 areas that we're looking at.
Okay, great. Another question, taking us back a little bit to the philosophy of the office, obviously with the local small business reserve program and the minority, female, and disabled program, we try to be equitable in how we award these contracts across the county. And obviously the county has adopted a racial equity and social justice policy recently. Talk a little bit about how that works in the department and what your goals are there.
Yes. So for local small business reserve program, it is a mandate by the council. Back in 2006, the law was passed. So since then, our office has been enforcing it. The current goal, we just had a recent amendment by Councilmember Jawanda. The current goal was raised from 20% to 25%. And to give you an idea, last fiscal year, July 1st of 2019 through June 30th of 2020, we spent about $120 million towards local and small businesses, and that counts for 27.4% of our eligible spending. And then in terms of minority, female, disabled business, we also have a mandate, that's our MFD law. That program is not a reserved program, but it is a subcontracting program. So for all our contracts that are over $50,000, they are all subject to the subcontracting program. All the prime contractors are required to have minority subcontractors. They need to submit a MFD plan at the beginning before the contract get executed. And our office will be enforcing and follow follow up with all the work and payments that they promised at the beginning of the contract throughout the contract life, making sure all the minority subcontractors that are listed in those plans are getting work and are paid in time. So the goals for that program, there are 4 different goals depending on which industry you are in. For example, if construction, for construction it's 21%, meaning the prime contractor needs to subcontract out at least 21% to minority-owned businesses. And our office will follow up and enforce throughout the contract life. And then for FY20, again, so we did about 22% toward minority businesses in spending.
That's fantastic. Ash, I talked a little bit to Grace about this early on in the show, what you're hearing from folks out in Montgomery County. As the director of the office, what are you hearing from these businesses out there and how they're managing through this pandemic?
You know, it's one of those things where they've reached out to us not only for opportunities to be part of county solicitations, which, you know, in addition to the set-asides and the mandates that we have, a lot of the streamlining, a lot of the simplification, a lot of the hand-holding that we're doing is going to help small businesses, and very often minority female-owned businesses tend to be smaller businesses. So I think that there's also that rising tides effect that's in place here. But besides asking us for help and opportunities, which we readily provide in terms of one-on-one consultations and you know, making tools like the tracker available for them, they had also been reaching out to us, believe it or not, for PPE. Many of them said that, you know, they were county contractors, but many of them were not county contractors, but just wanted to see if we'd be willing to help them because they'd heard about how we'd been successful in getting a hold of so much PPE. So, you know, we've done our very best to try to keep the local business community feeling supported by us. Now, what's really, to me, what's particularly significant about this is that a lot of these vendors are strategic to the county. And if they are not stable, then there's a risk to the county in that our vendor base is unstable. And so, to simply put it, I think that as we look at recovery, the Office of Procurement is going to have to be very involved in helping businesses get back up on their feet, not only because it's the right thing to do for the businesses, but frankly, because it's the right thing to do for my office, because these vendors not being in a good shape is not good for us.
Mm-hmm. How do you prepare for this winter that's coming in, and what we're hearing about a second surge and possibly closing and shutting back a little bit further some of our businesses? You know, how do you assist those businesses through that?
So, you know, there are obviously assistance programs that go beyond the scope of my office that are important and will be a very significant part of that help made available. In terms of county contracts, I think what we had done in the beginning when this all began, which is work in a very cooperative and collaborative manner with the vendors to modify contracts where possible, to have the services be delivered, but in a different format. So that means they don't have to be shut down. That means they don't have to be turned away because of the circumstances. We just figured out a way to change the way the work is being delivered, provided it's delivering the same outcome to county residents and, you know, other businesses. But it is just, you know, going back to our values, it is about empathy, it is about transparency, it is about collaboration. And I think, you know, we're the most important thing we've been doing, and I think this is maybe will be the ultimate theme that comes out of this entire tragedy. We've been communicating on every channel possible. We do as many events as we can, just so that people know that we're here and we're willing to engage with you.
And Susan, to your question, obviously it is a huge concern for everyone, because in some cases, some of these businesses were marginal to start with. I mean, that they were having difficulty. They might have been at one point a very thriving business, and then, you know, the retail has changed. I mean, there's been a series of events before COVID, And now once COVID hit, it's just a huge concern. The county is trying our best to spend the $183 million from the COVID money, the CARES Act money. We're working on that, and the county executive is working on that. But it is a huge concern for everyone involved. And to Ash's point, we need to make certain as best we can to keep our businesses, especially small businesses, larger ones too, but especially small businesses, as healthy as we can possibly keep them. And so we're obviously the Office of Procurement is a great partner in that, rather than someone working with each customer individually. If they have a large customer, if it's like Montgomery County, that certainly helps them.
We have another question that was sent in, and this is from Leslie McDonald, who is the Executive Director of the community, I believe it's community grants. Here's a question for Mr. Shetty. One of the changes that has come out of COVID is that the county has been making grants to businesses and nonprofits for COVID relief. Might the county consider using this new grant-making ability to fund nonprofits instead of using contracts? For example, community grants are actually contracts right now. Could they be grants?
So this is actually a question that it's more a policy question than it is a procurement operations question. It's one that I honestly just am not in a position to answer, because it wouldn't actually be my decision to make. The way grants come to us is in the form of contracts that we make sure are being administered, but how they are allocated is not determined by my office.
Okay. Grace, talk about how many businesses you've been able to help since March. Do you have a figure there that you can share with us?
We do open house and we do one-on-one consulting. I have 5 program managers under my unit, and they have been personally contacting local small and minority businesses on a daily basis whenever we have an opportunity, and we receive requests from them by email or by phone call. I don't have an exact number right now, but I can tell you we talk to about 10 to 20 businesses a day to try to help them out. Some of them just need hand holding in terms of how to get registered properly, get certified properly. Some of them need information about which departments buying my goods and services, and how can I let them know that I'm in this industry and I do well what I do. So there are many aspects of how to help these businesses, and we are also updating our website to try to get all this information out as much as we can.
Yeah, and the good news is that the governor has announced that there will be some relief for businesses, and we could see some more relief from the federal government, which we might be able to dole out to these businesses as well. Ash, what would be your advice right now to these small businesses who are struggling?
You know, there's no sage advice that is completely like a silver bullet that's going to completely fix everything. The truth of it is, I've tried to use this crisis to drive change to the extent possible within my own organization, and it's something that I would recommend to everybody. You know, we, after decades of not having been able to switch to e-procurement, have finally brought on e-procurement to Montgomery County. In June, we did our first electronic solicitation. What I'm trying to get to is, don't let this crisis go to waste. Yes, there's a lot of pain that comes with it, but also use this as an opportunity to reconsider what your strengths really are. Use this as an opportunity to slower time to fix some of those weaknesses if you can do that, like we've tried to do. Take advantage of things like the open houses, where we can train you on how to be a good vendor and work better with us. Learn how to register on our portal, for instance. Use the projections tab to see what contracts are upcoming, research them, so that when those opportunities arise, you are poised to win those opportunities. Attend things like the reverse trade show, especially now that it's virtual. There's very little excuse not to. If you fall into one of those industry groups that Grace just mentioned, come attend, start getting your ducks in a row, so that when this thing is close to over, you have all these opportunities that you've teed up for yourself, and you can come roaring back.
That's fantastic advice. Adapt and overcome, I think. That's what we're looking at right now. Sidney, we are out of time, so I'm going to toss it back to you to wrap us up.
Well, thank you very much. As we always mention, this is the fastest half an hour that happens. It really is. We get a lot of good information and enjoy seeing each other. We knew each other before, but we sincerely thank you. We thank everyone for listening. Please don't, if you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to my office or to Ash and to Grace. And once again, we thank Susan for being a great moderator. And I also want to thank Laurie for getting all of this together for us. Thank you. Please, everyone, be safe and be well.